Hey everyone, welcome to The Productive Dev. My name is Alyssa, and in today's video, I'm going to go through the top 4 MCPs that I use as a software developer. And I'm not just going to tell you what they do, but I'm actually going to go through a semi-real-world example. So we'll start off by looking at the linear MCP and taking a look at a ticket that I have in the backlog. Then that will go ahead and call the Figma MCP, and that will look at the designs for the component that we need to implement. Then we'll use the Context7 MCP to read through some documentation. And last but not least, we'll end on the Chrome DevTools MCP that will be able to open up a UI and be able to inspect the component that we're implementing. And so my hope is that by going through a semi-real-world example like this, although I won't be implementing like a production-ready version of it, you'll be able to see how you can potentially incorporate this into your own developer workflow. So let's dive in. Here we are in open code, and I'm going to show you how I would go through the process of going from ticket to implementation. So I am currently in plan mode, and I have the big pickle model selected. And you're probably wondering why not a premium model? Well, one, because I have less than 200 subscribers, and I have no idea who's going to watch this. So I do not want to waste my premium Claude and OpenAI credits on a YouTube video. But this should still be able to get the points across. But in a real-world example, I would be using one of those premium models. So I have a prompt set up that I'm going to paste in here, and it just says, take a look at this ticket, which is a ticket in our linear backlog, and inspect it, and then come up with a game plan. And this ticket is around creating a table component. And if you notice, it's just called the linear MCP, linear get issue. So it knows I have the linear MCP set up, so it's going out, fetching the ticket, reading the information, getting the context. If you use Atlassian or Jira, then Atlassian has their own MCP. We actually just switched over from Jira a few weeks back. So, and I assume the other project management tools like Monday.com and Asana, whatever else, hopefully by now have their own MCP. So I'm assuming, whatever your company uses, that you will be able to leverage an MCP. But in this particular example, we're using linear. And so this takes some time because it's going through reading the ticket information. I actually have a Figma link attached to the ticket, so it should be smart enough to know, okay, this is Figma, and then go ahead and know to use the Figma MCP to be able to inspect those designs. But this is probably going to take, it's already taking a few seconds, maybe even a minute or two, to go ahead and read it. This is very common, especially in plan mode. It's kind of getting context with my repository that's fairly new. So it's just trying to make sure it gets the most information right now. So I'll probably go ahead and fast forward through this portion, or at least pause the video, and then when it gets to the Figma MCP portion, I'll come back in. Okay, so as soon as I pause the video, of course it did it. So right now, you see it's called Figma Desktop Get Design Context. So it's going ahead, looking at the Figma documentation. Again, it's smart enough to know, okay, this ticket contains this. I probably need this as context. And so now it's going through and looks like it's solidifying the plan. And this is kind of the great part about plan mode. I always start off in plan mode, just letting it think through some things, before we go ahead and start implementing. And it's one of the nice things about open code. It kind of comes with a plan and build mode. I know a lot of different of these tools do, but and you can also create custom modes if you want. But I always start off in plan mode, just getting an idea of what we want to do, letting the agent obtain the context, and then I find that it has better solutions that way. So now, okay, so it's come up with a plan, great, spewing out a lot of information. And so while it's doing that, normally I would read through it, okay, ask any questions, go back and forth. But since it's just a demo purpose, I actually have a prompt here. Let's see. Can you look? Let me see. TanStack. Yeah. As you can tell, I've run this a few times. So I know I want to use TanStack to implement this table component. And so now what it will do is, it's going ahead and using the Context7 MCP. So it knows, okay, I need to read up on some documentation. That's the best tool for the job. And so this is kind of cool with these agents. I've noticed in the past few months or so, you don't even need to tell it what MCP to use. They're smart enough to be able to know, okay, I get what they're asking. This means I need to go ahead and read the documentation. Whereas before I felt like it would try and actually go read the docs, like go to the actual URL. So really cool. The agents are getting better at doing these kinds of things, but you can always steer it if you find it's not giving you the right information. So yeah, it's going ahead, reading about the information. I have my agent here on permissions mode. So if you notice, it's prompting me for each thing. I just personally like it like that. I don't fully trust the agent to go ahead and do things unless it's like a very simple task and it's very controlled. But I know it's kind of annoying, but I do still like to see what it's doing because I'm just scared it's going to run something bad. But yeah, so it's going ahead doing this. I'll go ahead and pause the video when it finishes reading through the documentation, and then we can go from there. Okay, so it's gone ahead and kind of given me a lot of options, blah, blah, blah. Usually I would steer it some more, give it more direction, but again, we're trying to make this really easy. So let me see. I have some previous prompts that I use. So I'm telling it, go ahead and look at the source components folder, create a table component. I'm kind of expecting it. Go ahead and just create like a basic version of this. So let's see what it does. I've kind of given it a lot in this prompt. I'm saying, go ahead, implement it. And I realized I did not put it in plan mode, build mode. So let me actually go ahead. So the cool thing about open code is you can press undo. So right now I've rolled back the last message. And so because I know I want it to be in build mode, because I want it to actually perform actions, I'm going to do that and then do this. And so now we can kind of start over. It doesn't go through the whole process. Really cool feature. Undo in open code. I think it's called rewind in Claude Code. So a lot of these tools have these features. So, and now what it's doing, so it gives, I like thinking about open code, it gives you this little like to-do list, which is really cool. And I like using open code in this kind of desktop GUI thing. The TUI is good as well. So now it's going to go ahead, install tan stack. It's checking, I guess, make sure it's installed. Of course, AI is very thorough. Some things I find annoying is that it can kind of, it wants to run ESLint and run the test and run prettier. That goes through tokens, of course, but I get that it's trying to be thorough. So I'm not sure I'll talk through each point here because it might take a few minutes because table components are quite complex to build, actually. And that's why this isn't going to be like a production-ready table. We have a lot of little nuances that we actually want, like filters and sorting and searching and resizing of columns and all these kinds of things. But I want it to at least give me a very basic version so that you can see what it will look like when we open it up in the browser. So I'm probably going to pause here while it's going ahead and doing all these things, and then we'll come back when it's ready to actually inspect it in Storybook. Alrighty, so running into some issues, of course, when I'm recording, and when I'm not recording is when it worked, but running into some issues with having the agent open up the Chrome DevTools server. It keeps wanting to open up curl, and I think this is because I've probably done this a few times. But let's see if it's able to go ahead and do this. Starting up Storybook. Let's hope that it uses the Chrome. Yay, there it is. Okay, finally. Usually it's because I've had to kind of record this a few times, but if you notice, it's going ahead, looking at the table. I'm not clicking anything. It's actually going through, and see, it says Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. So it's going through, looking at things, I think expecting what it did. I didn't give it a lot of direction as to how the table should look or anything. I mean, yes, it did reference the Figma file, but again, tables are very, very nuanced. So this is actually not too terrible for just the first pass. It was trying to ask me clarifying questions actually when we were in plan mode, but I just was like, go ahead, implement something default. So, not bad. It looks like it has some pagination over here. You can do some kind of filtering. So yeah, it's going ahead and looking through some things. It created a whole list of stories, which is really cool. I didn't prompt it to do that, so it knows to be able to handle different variants. Let's see, what else is it? Yeah, so it's still thinking. So look, it says all tasks are complete. So, all right, I'm just going to dismiss that for now. But isn't it pretty cool that it's able to kind of do this? So really, really neat. And it was able to click around. So that's kind of the Chrome DevTools MCP in action. So really neat, especially if you're like working on localhost. If you need to like log in with a password or something, I found it will open up like the login page and you can go ahead and enter things in and then it can take it from there. So really cool if you want the AI to kind of check its work in the UI. I hope you enjoyed that walkthrough and example of how I would use an agent and these 4 MCPs to implement a UI component. Granted, table components are very nuanced and tricky, so this isn't the full implementation, but it shows you what you can do at least to get some boilerplate and a good draft going. I will try to include links to the documentation of how to set up each MCP I shared in the video description below. And if you like developer and productivity tips just like this one, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.